This short video is really to provide an introduction to the concept of inspection as a tool in quality management. It's a short, it'll be a short overview, but there are some key concepts in here that I think are important to know. So inspection is really kind of a last resort, perhaps not a last resort, but it is a less than ideal situation, because what it does is it involves examining items, usually products, but you can do inspection on services as well, to see if an item is good or defective. So you've already invested time and effort in making the product or delivering the service, and if it fails, that's late. So the idea is to detect a defective product or service, but it doesn't correct those deficiencies in the process or in the design. It just prevents you from putting it any further in the process. So it's an expensive process. You're much better off to try and build processes that fail less, or design processes that minimize the risk. And we'll talk about that in a minute or two here. So the questions become when to inspect and where in the process to inspect. So you can inspect at a variety of different places: at the supplier's plant while the supplier is producing, so then you avoid the shipping costs. At your facility upon receipt of goods, one of the two of you've already paid shipping costs, and if you're paying for it shipped to you, even if there's not formal shipping costs, you've paid that cost already. Probably a little better is before costly or irreversible processes. So you inspect before you invest a whole bunch of time or money into something to make sure you're at least starting with something. So starting with good ingredients or good intermediate products becomes good, because if you put a faulty input into an expensive process, you're bound to fail. During the step-by-step production process, you can at several steps. Again, that's expensive, but it prevents you from changing or investing more in a flawed product to start with. You can inspect at the end, but then you've got everything invested in it. But all of these, you have to make. There are trade-offs in any of these approaches. Before delivery to your customer and at the point of customer contact. So there are a variety of ways. Different companies will strategically select different approaches, and I think what happens is it depends on the specifics and where problems are occurring. Again, inspection is a second best choice. Inspection can highlight many types of problems, worker fatigue, measurement area, process variability, but it can't make the product better. So if you have a flawed process, if you have a flawed product, and inspection reveals that that at least a portion of it isn't up to par, inspection will not change that process. Inspection will highlight if you have an issue with process variability. It will highlight if you've got some other errors. It will highlight if you've got people having a bad day, but it will not make a flawed process or service better. And so really, when we talk about quality, and we did in the introduction to quality video, we really talk about engineering or designing quality in. Inspection only identifies in many cases that you haven't managed to do that. So robust design, empowered employees that can tell you where they think things can go, and processes that are sound are better solutions. So starting early, designing something that's effective right from the start is much, much better than just inspection, although there are times when inspection makes sense. So source inspection is, also known as source control. The next step in the process is your customer. So you really want to make sure that you're not delivering something to your customer that is subpar. So sometimes that's worth doing. Again, if you have a fault in the process, uh, then you should be doing stuff earlier to identify where those problems occur with the tools we talked about in the tools video. But if you have concerns, particularly a high value product, then pre-delivery makes sense. With a service, that's more difficult because you're delivering it with the customer there, but you can prevent for, future issues, particularly in delivery. So you can do some things like engineering out quality issues, which we've talked about, build in fail safes. Poka-Yoke is a concept that frequently, just as an aside, shows up as a question on exams. I would say that in my class, at least, you can look at other classes, of course, but in my class at least, Poka-Yoke, the definition of Poka-Yoke comes up almost always on one or both of the midterm or the final. So Poka-Yoke is the concept of a foolproof device or techniques designed to pass only acceptable products, so that it builds into the process sort of a fail safe that prevents problems. So imagine, if you will, at a theme park where we have a minimum height. We have that board there. You must be at least this tall to advance, to go on the ride. That is a Poka-Yoke, right? There's no doubt we don't get people on there that are too small and may run into problems. Another example of a Poka-Yoke could be, McDonald's has or most fast food places have these containers for fries that they load fries into, so that they know exactly how many fries so they give out the exact number of fries every time there's not a problem. And so you can build these things, Poka-Yokes, into the process just to prevent problems. So inspection has a role, but it is really a second best solution to doing a good job on design, doing a good job on process, and inspection will just then help you to ensure that you are meeting the expectations that you've got. So that's a quick overview into inspection and quality. Have a great day.